I've let a few dates go past me today, and I've not kept track of everything that's going on. It's very hard. But today, Brian Houston faced court. It's his trial, and so today was the first day. The headline says, "I was paid for my silence. Court hears Hillsong founder Brian Houston's father gave money to the alleged victim." Now, I had heard that rumor. So this is what's been revealed in court today. Tomorrow is day 2. So an SA victim has told the Sydney court Hillsong founder Brian Houston knew about a $10,000 check, which the man believed was for his silence. On Monday, a special fixture for Mr. Houston began before Sydney Downing Street local court. He's accused of allegedly covering up his father's abuse of a young boy. He's pleaded not guilty to the charge of concealing a serious indictable offence by another person. The court heard that his father, Frank Houston, was accused of SA, a 7-year-old boy in the 1970s while visiting from New Zealand. The Crown alleges documents show Brian Houston learnt of the allegations in 1999 when he was a senior minister within the Pentecostal Church. Prosecutors say Mr. Houston had a legal requirement to report claims to police, but attempted to resolve the matter internally. The court has heard Frank Houston was defrocked as a minister shortly after the allegations came to light and retired from the church before dying in 2004. Brian Houston argues the victim did not want to go to the police, and that presented a reasonable excuse for him not to report the matter to authorities. Giving evidence, the alleged victim said he sent a dirty napkin in a McDonald's car park for $10,000 after meeting with Frank Houston in the late 90s. "It was for my silence, I've got no doubt about it." The victim told the court he contacted Brian Houston shortly after, who told him he would be receiving the money. And several weeks later, the check turned up for $10,000. "Quite frankly, I was paid for my silence." The alleged victim told the court in the same phone call Brian Houston accused him of tempting his father. He said to me, "This is all your fault, you tempted my father." Mr. Houston's barrister told the court that many people knew of the allegations before Brian Houston, and tens of thousands of people became aware after media reporting. The alleged victim said he was 7 years old the night Frank Houston abused him in his family home in Sydney East. It took him several years before he could tell his mother of the incident. He told the court that his family was heavily involved in the Pentecostal Church called the Assemblies of God, and claimed he felt indoctrinated. "I felt I was under a moral and spiritual cloud control of Frank Houston and the church," he said. He also said Frank Houston repeatedly called him in the late 90s to offer compensation. "It was for my silence, I've got no doubt at all. The narrative I understood was to keep quiet. We will deal with this within the church." The hearing continues tomorrow. So, day 1, we've heard that there was some money given to the victim for silence. So the Brian Houston defence is that that the victim did not want it reported to police. So I guess what they've got to work out is whether he had an obligation. Even if somebody doesn't want to report it, do you have an obligation? I know what the rules state now. We're looking, of course, we're back in the 1990s, 1999, when this was occurring. Now, interesting. So that's on that one. The National Cabinet was supposed to meet this week, all the state leaders with the Prime Minister, but the Prime Minister's got COVID. So he's isolating at Kirribilli House after testing positive for COVID. And it's his second infection after contracting the virus during this year's federal election campaign. So he's got it for the second time. He was to meet with all the leaders this week, and come up with a proposal on gas. So that's very interesting. And there's a few actually federal politicians that have come back from Canberra talking about the fact that they've got that have come back with COVID, which I find to be quite interesting, considering that COVID's been a word that's not being talked about very much. So he will work from home, of course, which is really interesting because there is no, they've cut all the payments now. If you've got COVID, you don't get any, there's nothing now that if you've got to take time off work. They've scrapped all that, and yet here we've got the Prime Minister in the position of being able to work from home. Just a little bit of irony. So what else? Here's an interesting one. Indonesia. Look at this one. This has just come through. Indonesia to ban the tango outside marriage as part of changes to its criminal code. So it's expected to ratify sweeping changes to its criminal code, according to senior officials, in a legal overhaul that critics say could wind back hard-won democratic freedoms and begin policing morality. The legislative overhaul would ban the tango outside of marriage with up to 1 year in jail and outlaw cohabitation between unmarried couples, insulting the president and expressing views counter to the national ideology known as the Pancasila. So Deputy Leader of the House of Representatives, who is the head of the Parliamentary Commission overseeing the revisions, said Parliament would hold a plenary session on Tuesday to ratify the new code. The government and House of Representatives have agreed on the draft code, clearing a hurdle for its passage. So there was protesters outside Parliament in Jakarta on Monday. On cohabitation, for example, it's clearly a private matter. So I'm interested what you think about this. So articles on customary law, blasphemy, protesting without notification, expressing views divergent from the Pancasila were all legally problematic because they could be widely interpreted. Once ratified, the new code will come into effect after 3 years as government and related institutions draft related implementing regulations. So it's Indonesia's School of Law says it's a huge setback for Indonesia. So it's a world's third largest democracy since watered down some of the articles deemed most contentious. So they've revised the articles on the tango outside marriage and cohabitation. For example, now states such complaints can only be reported by close relatives, such as a spouse, parent, or child, while insulting the president can only be reported by the president. So there you go. Only the president can report if you insult the president. But it could be a year. If you're caught doing the tango outside of marriage, you could face a year in prison. So, I want to know what you think about all of this. What do you think about the Brian Houston matter? Was it silence? Was it money? Was the alleged victim paid for silence? Should Houston have been? Should Brian Houston report it? How is COVID where you live? What's going on with COVID where you live? And what do you think about these sweeping new laws coming in for Indonesia? What does that mean for the world? I'm interested to know what you think. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. And there's memberships if you want to support the channel. Various ways you can support the channel. I just thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you later. Bye for now.